welcome back to another episode where this podcast is all dedicated to speakers, all of us wanting to help each other. Public speaking is just such a scary realm, and then making it your career is an even scarier realm. So, we want to make sure we're bridging that gap and just sharing everything that we know. And I'm so excited to have my guest, Miss Tiffany Rufino, with us today. Tiffany, thank you so much for the time today. I so appreciate it.
Macy, I'm super excited to be here with you today. It's been a little bit since we've seen each other, so this is definitely a long time coming.
Definitely. Well, I was just sharing with Tiffany right before we started recording. I was like, yeah, if we're doing a speaking podcast, if I were talking about speakers, being a speaker, Tiffany's one of my first guests that I'm bringing on. She has so much knowledge when it comes to speaking, and not only for herself, but for helping other women too. She's been hosting a bunch of different workshops around the local area, helping local women get on stage, share their story, and share it in a way that impacts them, but also the audience. I'm so privileged I was able to go to one of her events, and every single speaker just blew me away. The vulnerability they possessed and the speaking presence they had was just unmatched. So that all is, huge thanks to them, but also for Tiffany for putting them on that. So Tiffany, without much further ado, I guess, why don't you kick us off and just tell us a little bit, how did you get into the speaking world, or how did you start speaking, maybe not speaking, but public speaking?
I think it all, and thank you for that. And thank you for always supporting, what I'm doing and encouraging me to share with you thoughts and ideas. I love our conversations around that. For me, ironically, I was always behind the scenes.
Hmm.
I was a theater girl, but I was behind the scenes or, in a small bit part. I did the radio station for a while in New York, and that was also behind the scenes. You're not front and forward, nobody sees you, but they hear you. And it came to me a little bit later on in my career where they had an opening for a training and development speaker. And so I joined that program, got promoted, and I think my first group that I had to speak in front of was maybe 100 people. And I promise you, I was up all night. Um, and doing some things, bodily functions, that happen when you're nervous. I was really scared, and a lot of these people were my peers. So it was important to me to impress. And I remember I rehearsed and practiced and practiced. I had a whole speech written out, and I woke myself up in the time that I did have to sleep, actually speaking the speech. That's how much I was, determined to get the message across. And I realized once I walked out in front of them that I had been in their shoes before. And so I wasn't as nervous. It was
Mm.
more about what did I want to communicate to them that made that day impactful for them and that they walked away inspired or learning something new or at least with something that made that 8-hour day powerful for them. And once that was my focus, the nerves just dropped as soon as I walked in front of them. I was confident in what I had to say. I didn't say it how I rehearsed it. I just spoke to them the way that I would want someone to speak to me. And from there, the groups grew. It went from 100 to 150 to 200 to 500. And then I'm stepping in and taking over from for keynotes that were supposed to be there, but maybe their flight got changed and they had to leave. So I'm picking up where they left off. And it gets addicting, just seeing the light bulbs go off in the audience, seeing people that are inspired or just like, wow, I never thought of things that way, was really powerful to me. And so that kind of started my journey from there.
Wow. I'm so glad that you brought up, how nervous you were before your
Yeah.
first speech, because that is something I feel like there's a very common misconception. I don't know about you. For me, it never goes away. I'm always nervous before I get on stage because I'm always like, what if this is the one time it's gonna be terrible. I'm gonna hate it. And then as
Especially
I
with social media around, right? Like everything is caught on camera and remembered forever.
Yeah. So how is it for you? Do the nerves have they gone away completely, or do you still get a healthy amount of nerves before you go on stage?
I still get a healthy amount of nerves on stage. I have learned to navigate and work with them
Mm,
as opposed to against them. And I realize that with nerves, that it's really, it just means it's important to you. It's
mm.
important to you to really give the audience what they're looking for and work through that. And I know that we talked about, I have a couple of tips to help people through that. But for me, yeah, they're always there. And once I get the conversation going and once, it starts, then they kind of fall to the wayside because my focus is on what do you need from me and how can I provide that for you?
Yeah, it was a little bit off topic, but I was just like, I think a lot of people say that to me when I before I go on stage. They're like, "Oh, you're not worried. I know you've done this a million times." And I'm like, "Girl, I don't know what you think I'm like, but I'm just as nervous like doing a 1 minute speech or just introducing a speaker as I am giving like when I gave my TEDx talk. I get just as nervous to give people some clarity on that. And I love what you said about working with it. I think a lot of people think it needs to be completely dissipated, but that's not the case. And
No.
I love the way you framed it. It's important to you and you want to do a good job. Um, so I'd love for you to share a little bit about what are you doing right now? How are you helping people? I've shared a few things that I've seen you do for other women, but I'd love for you to share a little bit about what you're doing right now.
Sure. So I'm working on things behind the scenes on how to help organizations because I'm big into organizational psychology, pretty much an expert in that area. And my biggest thing is relationships within the workplace and working with big businesses, Fortune 500 companies on how do you help the people and bring it back to people so that your business gets the results. So I have different programs that I am building in order to make that happen and communicating that through my keynote speeches or whether I'm doing training and development or reworking some of the culture issues that organizations have.
Mm.
That's my big passion right now. So I have a program coming out. I have a book that's going to come out this summer. And then I also have some talks lined up. So super excited.
Ooh,
Lots of great things building up to greater things.
that is so cool. How did you really realize that that was your strength when it comes to speaking, when it comes to training? Like, oh, helping people with these types of organizations. How did that kind of start speaking to you?
I think that I was very, I want to say, blessed and lucky in the relationships that I built, in that people came to me asking for advice or guidance. And those questions became so frequent that I
Mm,
realized something had to be put together. And I think that things are brought to you when you have something that you could serve in that sense in order to solve a problem or bring a solution to an area that people are struggling in. And when it became that, I said, okay, there's different programs out there that could help with public speaking or to help communicate. Communication is like one of the biggest challenges I find anywhere within families, within friendships, within business, like anywhere. And I said, what's not out there that is the gap? And when you identify that in any field that you're in, that's where your magic is if you could see it, then you have something that needs to be brought to that table and you need to share it.
yeah, I'm so curious to hear because I would say it's definitely such a privilege that people see you as an authority to go say, "Hey, I'm having this trouble. Let me go ask Tiffany her thoughts on this." Do you ever deal with any type of like maybe imposter syndrome? And I know I'm speaking, that's why I'm asking this question from experience. Like, do you ever have someone ask you like, "Oh, Tiffany, you have to tell me how to fix this," and you almost go, "Wait, who am I to tell you to like, how do you see me this way?" Does that ever come up for you?
All the time. And then I have to let it go because then I'm in my head and I'm worried about my ego rather than actually
Mm,
helping the person with the solution they're looking for. So if they came to me, it's because whoever they've gone to in the past, it may have helped at the time, but they need something else to get them further. And so it becomes a conversation on what are you looking to do? What have you tried? And let's talk about what we could do to make it greater. Because every tip, every tool, everything you learn helps, but what grows you from after you learned all those things and applied them.
yeah.
And so it's really just honestly, it's having a conversation and really having a consultation on what that person's goal is and what their struggle is and bridging that gap.
That's really beautiful. I'm so glad that you touched upon that. That's really important because a lot of people I see in business, I know they have so many great services to provide and they have some great experience, but that sabotage, the imposter syndrome, it gets in the way of our own success. And we don't
Yeah.
even realize sometimes that we are our worst enemy until it's, in hindsight, you go, oh my gosh, I totally should have done something like that. Um, so kind of while we're on this topic anyway of what we kind of wish we'd known or things that we're doing to help ourselves, you mentioned that you have a few tips that you'd love to share for any speakers out there or aspiring speakers or established speakers. So I'd love to hear them.
Yes, absolutely. I think the first one is that if you're nervous, if you're anxious before you're about to have a talk, remember that it's just a conversation at a bigger party that you've ever
Hmm,
been to. Everybody that is coming to see you is there because you are there speaking. So they're there to support you, and everyone wants you to win. I have never gone to a conference and sat there and said, wow, I hope this sucks. I've never like, I can't wait to see them trip or spit when they talk. I can't even tell you anybody that has done that because that's not the message that I received. And so remember, everybody wants you to win. No one's sitting there hoping that you fail. They want to learn from you. You have a story to share and you have a voice for a reason. You are given a gift of sharing that, and that's why they're there. So if you have that in your mindset, that'll help you get through a little bit of the nerves. The other thing is preparing. Some people do best when they have a script. Some people get too nervous if they have a script because they're worried about missing a word, missing a sentence, or not having things within the time frame, or did I get this point across? Other people do better when they improvise, and as long as they have that topic, then they could just go off the top of their head and they'll be fine. I can work both ways. I prefer to customize my talks for whoever I am speaking to. So preparing, at least have 3 bullet points. If you're somebody that talks off the top of your head, have at least 3 bullet points that you make sure you don't want to miss. And then if you're somebody that does it scripted, don't worry if you miss a word because the audience doesn't know what your script is. So don't panic over that part. Think about the message as a whole, not the words in the sentence. And then I would say own the room and prepare for anything. I had a huge conference that I was doing. It was huge for me. It was about 400 people. It was in Orlando. And in the middle of the 8-hour session, the power went out in the entire hotel. No microphone, no video, no power slides, nothing. And in that moment, you can't just stop and say, all right, bye. People traveled in to see us. So improvise on the spot. I shouted it out. I worked it out. I role played with the audience. We made it happen till the power came back on. Um, excuse me.
No
The
worries.
other thing I would say is respect the people in the process, respect the people behind the scenes. Just because they're not on stage doesn't mean they're not working as hard as you.
Mhm.
Understand what the process is so that you save everybody time. You know what a lavalier mic is versus an omnidirectional microphone. You understand what the lighting is going to look like. You're not a deer in headlights as soon as you walk on stage because you've walked the room, own the room, but respect what people's jobs are. Thank people, see how you could help as well. Just make life easier for everybody.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. And I think three is so important. And if you are maybe not in the event world, maybe people don't know, but it can get really hard sometimes. And especially when you're so nervous and you're so ramped up on anxiety and adrenaline, it's easy for some of those small things to bypass you of, oh, well, you're not saying thank you when someone's helping you with the mic, or, you didn't say please when you asked for something. It's so easy to get in caught up in like, oh, I'm the speaker, blah, blah, blah. I have so much to prepare for, and then we just kind of let these small things pass us by. And it's hard, no one wants to be like that. And sometimes it happens. And I think also what's important is if you realize, "Oh, I think I didn't say thank you," go ahead and find them and I would say apologize. That's what I would personally do, because people working backstage, they're working so hard. They're probably just as stressed as you. You just don't see it sometimes.
I was just going to say that they're just as vulnerable because their role is riding on how this goes as well. If the sound isn't there, that's on them. If the lighting isn't there, so they're just as nervous, but for different reasons. And
Exactly.
it's okay to be vulnerable. It really is.
I love that. Well, Tiffany, thank you so much for the time today. Of course, like I said, you really had to be one of the first guests I had on this podcast, and I'm so glad that you had the time, and I'm really honored. So you gave so many great little tidbits. I think it's like overflowing with 15 minutes. So thank you again for the time. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you. I really appreciate the invite. I had a great time.
Of course, and to everyone watching, I really appreciate you as well, and I'll see you next time. Bye.